Ba-ba, ba-ba. There's so much to appreciate, even when the world seems out of hand. Even when we do not understand, still there's so much. Ooh, ba-ba. There's so much to be grateful for, even much invitation to breathe. Let us take a moment just to breathe and recognize there's so much. Oh, there's so much. There's so much, so much is wonderful, even in the midst of loss and change. There's a chance that something new begins, and don't you want that so much? There's so much, so I know we need it so much. So much.
Welcome to our worship service. Settle into your space, take a deep breath in, and let it out. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe we are all connected in this world, and we value the worth and dignity of each and every person. We pull on the wisdom of many sources to teach us, guide us, and help us understand this world. As we settle into our space and prepare our hearts for worship, let us remember our connections to each other and renew those connections through our collective words we say for our chalice lighting. Please join me in the chalice lighting words. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek and seek to share. As I prepared our worship for today, I thought about changing the topic and addressing the events we have witnessed this week. However, after some deep reflection and prayerful thought, I decided what I plan to preach on and about is more important than ever and gives us a way to respond. Let us take a deep breath in and out, settle ourselves once again, and enter into worship together. Our opening words are from our hymnal number 419 and attributed to Kalidasi. Look to this day, for it is the life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. Come, let us worship together. Please rise in voice or spirit in our opening hymn, Come Sing a Song with Me.
Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind. And I
Our first reading is an excerpt from an article titled Size is the Measure by Professor Bernard Loomer. How big is your soul? By size, I mean the stature of your soul, the range and depth of your love, your capacity for relationships. I mean the volume of life you can take into your being and still maintain your integrity and individuality. The intensity and variety of outlook you can entertain in the unity of your being without feeling defensive or insecure. I mean the strength of your spirit to encourage others to become freer in the development of their diversity and uniqueness. I mean the power to sustain more complex and enriching tensions. I mean the magnanimity of concern to provide conditions to enable others to increase in stature. Our second reading is from Professor Bob Mesley. A soul is not a thing. It is not something which stands untouched by the events of your life. Your soul is the river of your life. It is the cumulative flow of your experience. But what do we experience? The world, each other. So your soul is the cumulative flow of all your relationships with everything and everyone around you.
One of the concepts I discovered in my studies of process theology is fat soul philosophy. I love how Patricia Adams Farmer, a process theologian, describes why they use the adjective fat, which has so many negative connotations in our society. She says this: why fat soul? Who wants to be fat? Isn't fat a bad word? This is the subversive side of fat soul philosophy. A merely big soul sounds benign and friendly even to mainstream thinking. But the fat soul is edgy. For the fat soul dares to get bigger than society deems proper. But of course, we're not talking about the physical body, but rather the psyche, the soul, the river of experiences that makes up who we are. We are supposed to be focused on wealth and success, while keeping us and them categories neat and tidy. In terms of power relations, we're not supposed to think too much about sharing power, for shared power is entirely too fat. Neither are we to waste too much brain power on the least of these, or the threatened bee population, or the way the seas are rising, or how Muslims must feel when Westerners demonize them, or the difference between how Black Lives Matter protesters are treated compared to Trump supporters storming the Capitol. She continues, that's getting a bit fat in our thinking, isn't it? Keep the focus on money, unilateral power, us versus them, and the belief we are wholly separate from nature. Farmer also suggests an acronym for FAT to help us understand it better. F, flexible, A, aesthetic, T, tender, creating a flexible, aesthetic, tender soul. She expands this the following way. A flexible, aesthetic, tender soul chooses flexibility over rigidity to deal with the realities of change. It values an aesthetic of intense harmonies, diversified forms of beauty over sameness, and it responds to the world with tenderness and compassion rather than control and coercion. So once she introduces this acronym, she takes it a step further by explaining why this type of soul expansion is necessary right now. She explains, to be a fat soul simply means that we are willing to let go of the rigid, false borders that alienate us from each other. It is to let go of the self-righteousness and absolutism and mindsets based on fear. In this way, the fat soul can serve as an antidote to fundamentalism. To be a fat soul is to embrace wider, more elastic sense of self based on the reality of our profound interconnection in the web of life. It is to live deeply, expansively, imaginatively, and courageously. Best of all, a Fat Soul philosophy dares us, despite difficult times, to be stubbornly and undauntedly drenched in delight. Finally, she continues, to be a fat soul is to stretch toward this wider beauty, which includes not only intense delight, but also intense caring for the darkness. This means we must first make plenty of room in the soul of self-compassion, especially the shadowy and broken parts that need space and caring in order to be transformed. Then we are free to widen the circle of compassion to include friends and strangers and trees and cows and the whole wide earth. We are all connected. We all deserve compassion. We all belong. I invite you into a time of meditation. Settle into your space. Let your shoulders relax. Place your feet firmly on the floor. Take a deep breath in and let it out. And if you so choose, close your eyes. As you breathe in and out, I invite you to picture a time in your life when you were afraid or struggling. Bring yourself into that experience. Notice who is around you, what colors are present, what smells are associated. As you breathe into that experience, with each breath you take, I want you to imagine the fear dissolving. Each breath takes up the room of the fear and replaces it with a sense of peace. Soak up that peace, breathe it in, let it become part of you, and breathe out the fear. Continue to breathe it in, and as you breathe out, now let that peace expand beyond yourself. Let it expand out into our world to others. Send a blessing of peace out into the world. As you continue to breathe in and out, I now invite you to picture in your mind a place you have experienced immense beauty. Bring yourself into that place. Notice who is with you. Notice the colors, the smells. Soak up that beauty. Let it become part of you. Breathe it in. And as you breathe out, let that beauty expand beyond yourself. Let it expand for others to experience. Now send a blessing of beauty out into the world. Now breathing in and out, I invite you to think of a time you experienced love. Bring it into your mind. Notice who is with you. The smells and colors that are there. Soak up that love. Let it become part of you. Breathe it in deeply. And as you breathe out, let that love expand beyond yourself. Let it expand to the others in our world. And send a blessing of love out into the world. Continue to breathe in and out and think of other blessings you have had in your life. Breathe them in and let them become part of you. And as you breathe out, expand and send that blessing to others. I invite you to continue those blessings on your own for a few minutes as we quietly, peacefully breathe in and out. Thank you for your presence. May our blessings become expansive and continue to create more beauty and love. Amen.
To be humble, to be kind, it is the giving of the peace in your mind. To a stranger, to a friend, to give in such a way that has no end. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are one, we are how we treat each other and nothing more.
Our third reading is an excerpt from an essay titled, "What is Fat Soul Philosophy?" by Patricia Adams Farmer. A beautiful soul is a large soul, one that can overcome the smallness and pettiness of our human condition. A really fat soul can welcome diverse people, ideas, and ways of being in the world without feeling threatened. A fat soul experiences the intensity of life in its fullness, even the painful side of life, and knows there is something still bigger. Our fourth and final reading is from Rainier Maria Rilke. I live my life in widening circles that reach out across the world. I may never complete the last one, but I give myself to it.
Now that we know what a fat soul is, how do we grow a beautiful fat soul? What are the elements we need to help us realize we are living into being flexible, aesthetic, and tender? The first is what Farmer calls embracing big happiness. A big happiness moves beyond the individualistic ideas of happiness and turns our thoughts to soul-stretching ways of being. It connects us to a deeper understanding and appreciation of life. It calls us to recognize our interconnectedness of the web of life and how what we do affects others as well as what others do affect us. With the word happiness in the concept, it may seem that we only focus on the joyful aspects of life. However, Farmer suggests that instead it invites us to acknowledge unhappiness and care for it. She states, "For a soul that excludes or denies the darkness is a very shallow soul indeed, and will have to settle for the barest and most artificial forms of happiness. For a soul that has not been shattered by loss, or never agonized over the inherent difficulties of a meaningful relationship, or experienced the poignancy of a passing beauty, that is a soul bereft and impoverished." Not only are we to invite unhappiness in to understand the big happiness, but we are also encouraged to experience rage and anger at the injustices of the world. By experiencing these fully and understanding the strength they provide to fuel us into transforming and healing actions, we can then be those active co-creators which work towards expanding beauty, love, and justice in our world. By knowing big happiness, we allow ourselves a depth of grounding and integrity in the work we do. In addition to acknowledging a big happiness, a beautiful fat soul also has to have a certain edginess to it. J. McDaniel, another process theologian and fat soul philosopher, suggests this as an explanation. The point is that in a healthy spiritual life, it is important to be alienated as well as at home, to be troubled as well as peaceful, to be angry as well as satisfied. He further expands this idea in his idea of God and suggests the following. An empathetic God has to be, for the world is suffering and filled with injustice. A God who doesn't feel the darkness and lure us into something about it, kick a little ass, in other words, is not a beautiful God. And God is beautiful. And maybe it's why I feel both peaceful and discontent at the same time, and know, in fact, that it's okay. In fact, it's beautiful. I remember my intern supervisor introducing me to the quote about comforting the afflicted and afflicting the comfortable. I like how this invites us to be comforted, to seek beauty, to be peaceful, and to be uncomfortable, to witness the ugly, and to be discontent. It is this edginess that keeps us activated, that keeps us in the relationship of co-creating. It does not give us permission to be passive, to be complacent. Farmer reminds us to stretch our souls toward the edgy for the sake of the world. We may need to speak up, protest, or be the countercultural voice in a situation without a soul, without justice, without mercy. To create more soul in a soulless situation, we may need to take off our kid gloves and tap into our kick-ass side. I end with this from Farmer. The soul of the world needs a partner, namely you and me and the stars. We are all in this together. In our interconnected cosmos, we affect God's work in the world and literally change the world with every thought we think, every gesture we make. Fat Soul philosophy does not portray a God defined by power, but rather a God defined by love. Or to borrow theologian David Polk's phrase, the God of empowering love. Thus, being empowered, there is no place for disinterested bystanders, whether in caring for a person or standing up for justice or creating sustainable communities for future generations. Personal responsibility, including the inner tasks of prayer and mindfulness, will ever be our calling, even when we have to do what we think we cannot do. May we know this to be true in our hearts and our fat souls. I invite you into a body prayer. This is something that we have done over the past, and we've done it together. We've done it on film. And so I ask you to either stand up if you want to or sit down. You know you can do this in either way. And I invite you to raise your arms up. Look up to the sky. We are grateful for the wisdom we have been given. Let us trust the wisdom within us and be open to the wisdom around us. We drop our hands down to our side, leaving space between our arms and our body. We are grateful for the energy we have been given. Let us feed into that energy positively, balance it within and without ourselves, and care for the energy of others. We bring our hands to our heart. We are grateful for the love in our life. May we know that love deep within ourselves. May we let that love expand to those around us, those known to us, those unknown to us, those that we care for, those that we fear. Let that love expand to all beings around the world, out into the universe and beyond. We take our hands and we bring them up and over. And as we do this, we say, I am love. I am strength. I am beauty. I am wisdom. And today we're going to add, we are love. We are strength. We are beauty. We are wisdom. And we bring our palm to the side and palm facing up, right over our hearts. And we say to ourselves, one of those things that resonated with us, I am love, I am beauty, I am wisdom, I am strength. Let that settle into yourself. Let that be true on your eyes, in what you see, in what you say, and in the actions that you do. May it rest in your heart. Let us send that blessing out into the world as well, so others may feel it. Then we place our palms together and we bend ever so slightly. We are grateful for the blessings in our life. May we hold them so gently and not take them for granted. Amen. Please raise your spirit and voice for our closing hymn, Life Calls Us On.
Here in reverence now we gather for the blessings we have known, with a pledge to one another that we journey not alone. Joy and sorrow may
May you find ways to grow your soul in beautiful, fat ways in the days to come. Love be with you. Please join in our collective chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please raise your hands in the spirit of connection for our closing song.
Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Every time I feel this way, this old familiar sinking, I will lay my troubles down by the water, where the river will never run dry. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. By and by, I will lay my troubles down by the water, where the river will never run dry. It's been said, and I do believe, as you ask, so shall you receive. So take from me these troubles, bring me sweet release, where the river will never run dry. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. By and by, I will lay my troubles down by the water, where the river will never run dry. There is a river in this heart of hearts, with the knowingness of my highest good. I am willing